And for more, I'm joined by Marc Perrone, president of the United Food and Commercial Workers International. Thank you for joining us. Well, so the workers that you represent have now been declared part of this country's critical infrastructure. What is their reaction? What have you been hearing from them about that?
Well, I think that they're fine with being part of the critical infrastructure. I think they always knew that anyway, Steve. I think that the issue, however, is that on the front end of this pandemic, they were not given the PPE that they needed in order to keep them safe and protected, nor were they allowed to be tested. We all know the challenges that we saw in the healthcare industry and in our first responders. And this union moved very quickly to include both grocery store, pharmacy workers, as well as packing house and food processing workers listed as first responders. I can't begin to tell you how significant that was. Our employers, in many cases, tried to get the equipment and couldn't, and therefore there's a problem. Now, I understand that the president says that what he's going to do is he's going to force the plants to remain open. I don't think he understands how they actually work, though. Is that if you have 20% of the workforce that are out sick, and we saw some significant numbers on your chart just earlier, if 20% of the workforce is out sick, logistically, you can't open the plant. That is the problem. It's not that people don't want to work. It's just that the way the layout of the plant is, it creates these obstacles. So here's what we're saying. Can you keep plants open safely? Yes, you can if you provide layered PPE in the plant and make sure that the employers have access to the federal supplies so that they can get in the supply chain, like healthcare and emergency workers. We have to make sure that there's enforceable safety standards inside the plant that are uniform regardless of what company is doing it. We also need to make sure that workers get adequate sick leave. So if, in fact, they are feeling sick, they can take off, don't have to worry about necessarily infecting those workers in that plant. And the third thing or fourth thing they need is adequate, rapid testing, both for the antibodies as well as the virus itself on a daily basis so that we know exactly who has the virus and who doesn't. We can do that if, in fact, we get on top of this. Now, signing a decree is not going to change things if we don't make sure if those workers are secure. You cannot have a secure food supply in this nation unless those workers have a secure location to go to work without the virus.
So I want to,
in a nutshell.
So I want to ask you, you laid out what exactly it is that you're looking for here, what exactly it is that your workers want to have in place to be working under this order. Let me just ask you, the order has been issued now. If these things are not all in place and these companies say we are back in business, workers report for duty, what's going to happen?
You're going to end up with some more people that are going to be sick because if you're not doing the testing, okay, what will happen is that somebody either from outside the plant that has had some contact with somebody that's had the virus will go back into the plant being asymptomatic. They'll ultimately end up coming in contact with somebody else because these plants, now I hate to use this term, but I'm going to, there's like stationary cruise ships. Everybody is close together. They're walking through the hallways close together. They're on the lines close together. They're having lunch close together. It's a very tightly constructed work environment. So you're going to end up with more people sick. We're going to have some additional outbreaks. It's inevitable. You're going to see some rolling closures. It's not because the manufacturer or the company doesn't want to stay open. It's not because the workers don't want to work. It's going to be how they ultimately have to deal with it because they don't have enough workers at that location because they're in the middle of the countryside to where are you going to come up with 5,000 people?
All right. Marc Perrone of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. Thank you, sir, for joining us.